Welcome back to Mountain Views. I am pleased to be sitting with the governor of the great state of Utah. It's Gary Herbert. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
If you would, give your reflections on the recent legislative session that's just been completed, highlights, maybe lowlights, and kind of where you see things from your chair.
Well, I think it was a good session. The number one issue is the budget. Sometimes we forget that's really why they're coming back into session. Their number one priority is to make sure that we spend the monies that we have available appropriately and that prioritization takes place. And I think they did a pretty good job of that overall. There's always a few funky bills that come along and that cause some concern. But there wasn't a whole lot of drama this time, and so I think overall it was a good session. A lot of new freshman legislators that really got their feet wet their first time and contributed in a significant way. New leadership in the Senate with President Niederhauser, who did an outstanding job. Veteran leadership with Speaker Lockhart in the House. And I think there was a collaborative effort that was outstanding. I'm extremely pleased with the fact that we prioritized correctly when it comes to education. Over $300 million of new money that's going to be going into education. And for me, it's all about economic development, and clearly we cannot have long-term sustained economic growth if we don't have a skilled labor force. That means education. So I am very much appreciative of that. The embracement of my goal of 66 by 2020, meaning that 2/3 of our adult population will have some kind of post-high school certificate or education degree, again, raises the bar in Utah and provides a pathway forward to have continued economic success. And that's, I mean, the highlights, I think, of the legislative session, and we all should feel good about what they did.
Indeed. If you would, since we're kind of in the midst of what's going to happen with HB 76 and the concealed carry without a permit, you vetoed already, I believe, and there's a question now as to whether or not the session will come back up to override the veto. Your thoughts in general on the bill? Obviously, you vetoed it. By the same token, it's an interesting consideration as we sit here today at the end of March in the year 2013.
Well, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Most people in Utah are. And I'm a concealed weapon permit holder myself, have been for many years. And part of Utah's culture is certainly the right to bear arms is a part of our nature. That being said, we've evolved to the point over a number of years that have got us to where we have this concealed weapon permit requirement. You want to carry open, that's okay, but if you want to carry concealed, you need to have some additional training, take a class, and get a permit. It's served us very well. In fact, it's been a model for most of the states around the country. We have a lot of people that come to Utah to take the class and get their permit because we have reciprocity with 34 other states. So it's kind of the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's worked very well. I saw no reason to change it. We're going to keep the status quo, which doesn't take anybody's rights away from them. Certainly it's constitutional. And the argument of trying to accommodate hunters up in the mountains that in inclement weather need to put a coat on, you know, I just don't think washes with me as far as the need to change policy.
Completely change the law.
Broad-based. So I vetoed the bill, and I think it's the right thing to do. I have a role to play, and that's part of it. And so I didn't think this was good policy based on our historical evidence. And we'll just have to wait and see. The legislature usually will wait until I finish my 20-day period of signing or vetoing bills, which I think is up on around April the 4th. I'm sure they'll take a look at it, decide whether they want to come back into session and try to override it or not. I would hope that in time that they'll see the wisdom of the veto and choose not to override it.
I think it points out to me something that goes right back to the beginning of our conversation in terms of the way that people, I think, want to stereotype a little bit, certainly in national politics, maybe a lot less so in state politics and governance, that you're a far more moderate, thoughtful governor than a lot of people might like to paint you. Talk a little bit about that, kind of that difference in reality versus what people think.
Well, that's a good observation. I'm a pretty conservative guy by principle, but I try to be moderate in tone. I'm respectful for people who have different points of view. I'm not offended if you have a different point of view on policy than I do, and I hope you're not offended that I have a different policy view than you do. We ought to work together and understand each other better. And so I tend to be more inclusive in my process. I try to bring people together to get a consensus built and then get the right outcome. I'm not a knee-jerk reactionary kind of a guy. I'm probably one of the more conservative governors we've had in recent memory. But I also, with the role of governor, you have to take a little broader view of things that take place and maybe more elevated view. You hear people talk about the 30,000-foot level view. I'm the governor of all of the people of Utah, and my constituency is statewide. And Republicans, Democrats, Independents, you know, are my constituency. And so I try to represent them accurately, and certainly based on a set of principles. Now, campaigns are what campaigns are, and I think there's been some distortion, mainly through campaigning and accusations made that actually are not true, and misrepresentations. And that's part of the distortion that happens in the marketplace. Over time, people get to know me better and better and better and recognize that I'm a principled conservative, Ronald Reagan Republican, but pretty inclusive and moderate in tone in how we try to develop policy for the state of Utah going forward. And clearly it's working. Look at the outcomes we're receiving. More money for education, an economy that's one of the healthiest in America, unemployment rate that's dropping, infrastructure is being built, protection of our water system, and anticipating not just short-term goals but long-term goals, having the lowest cost health care in America, and one of the rated 5 or 6 best quality in America. So in every measurable category, we're getting some really good outcomes. And I'm pleased and grateful for that.
And certainly the spirit of Ronald Reagan in terms of that era of the Republican Party, not only successfully, but also in terms of being more at a moderate point, representing more of America, certainly is something that resonates nowadays.
Bringing people together. Ronald Reagan said this, and I think it's something that all of us should listen to and learn and believe. If you agree with me 80% of the time, you're my friend. We have too many one-issue oriented folks out there that if you disagree with them on one issue out of 100, you know, they're ready to throw you out. And we need to be a little more tolerant of each other, a bigger tent that most of us can fit in. And if we do that and work together, we're going to have some really great outcomes. And Utah is leading the nation in most of those areas. And people are looking to us as a good example. So again, we've got great people in Utah, which is why we have a great state.
Indeed. Well, I understand that you have a few of your gubernatorial colleagues in town this very minute, and that you're needing to spend some time with them. So I'll draw this to a close by saying thank you so much for spending time with us.
Well, thank
Great
you.
to see you, and I hope that we have a chance to chat by the fire again soon.
We have 5 governors in town and some other folks that support the Republican Governors Association, and so they're out skiing on the slopes and
Fantastic.
And doing a lot of fun things and dropping a few dollars in the Summit County coffers.
And we moved some things around so that we had a bluebird day on the slopes today. So.
Well, good. Well, it's great to be with you. And again, I can tell you we're going to bring these governors and corporate people back here every year. This is just a wonderful venue, and we're just happy to host, and they're happy to be here.
Fantastic. Great to see you. Safe
Thank
travels. It's Governor Gary Herbert. So great to have him with us here on the Mountain Views program. Quick break. More of the program right after this. Stay tuned.